for this opportunity for us to continue these lessons in the book Kitab Idah, the fiqh of Sada al-Hanafiyyah. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of us and with understanding, tawfiq and hidayah, and may Allah protect us from all difficulties, trials and tribulations in dunya and akhirah. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. So now inshallah we will enter into where we have stopped in our last lesson. So we have come to the part where the author is speaking about Faslun fi bayani ahkamis su'ri. Before that we were speaking about some rulings pertaining to water when it comes to the changes of its properties. So we mentioned that water with regard to changes, the author speaks about a few types, whether it is a soluble change or something that does not dissolve with water. So we spoke about so many of these differences with regard to the effects of the purity of the water. So we have mentioned all of this. So today our lesson will be on the part where he mentioned about the rulings of as-su'ri. So we have this particular word as-sur'. In the Arabic language, it refers to the remnants. Sur' is the remnant of what has been drunk. The remnant of what has been drunk. And so, for example, if I were to drink from a cup of water, so after I take a few sips, so the remnants of the water that is in the cup is called sur'. In the Arabic language, it's called sur'. So here the author is speaking about the rulings on these remnants, whether it is pure or not pure, it is makruh. So he will mention a few types of sur' and how it can be affected by the one who drank the water. At times it can be najis, at times it can be makruh, at times it can be non-najis or non-makruh. So this is basically the meaning of sur', the remnants of the water that has been drunk. So first thing he mentioned, wal ma'ul qalilu idha shariba minhu hayawan. The author began by speaking about al ma'ul qalil. Al ma'ul qalil, it refers to a small quantity of water. A small quantity of water. Why did the author mention a small quantity of water in the beginning? Because only any small quantity of water can be affected by the one who drank. But if water is in a large quantity, we have the hadith in the Prophet ﷺ, إِذَا بَلَغَ الْمَاءُ قُلَّتَيْنِ لَمْ يَحْمِلِ الْخَبَثِ. If water reaches to qulla, and this is considered to be a large amount of water, then the water does not carry filth. But anything that is less than to qulla, anything that is considered to be a little water, as what we mentioned in our last lesson, it can be affected by filth whenever a filth is placed into it. So that is why the author speaks about al-ma'ul qalil. Because when it comes to ma'ul kathir, we got no problem with that. If a dog, for example, drinks from a pool of water, which is very large, so we do not consider that the whole pool of water to be najasa, to be mutanajis, just for the fact that a dog drank from it, because we differentiate a large amount of water and small amount of water. But if it drinks from a small amount of water, from a pail of water, for example, then certainly the water becomes mutanajis. So clearly there is a difference between water that is small in quantity and water that is large in quantity. But here we need to discuss what is the definition of a small quantity of water and a large quantity of water. And here is where there is a difference in opinion between the two madhab, the madhab of Imam Shafi'i and the madhab of Al-Imam Abu Hanifa. In the madhab of Al-Imam Shafi'i, as what we studied, for example, in Muqaddimah Hadramiyah, it speaks specifically and clearly about what is the meaning of the qullah, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he mentioned إِذَا بَلَغَ الْمَاءُ قُلَّتَيْنِ لَمْ يَحْمِلِ الْخَبَثِ, that water and when it reaches into qullah, it does not any carry filth. The scholars of the Shafi'i madhab, they do any ijtihad. They look at the qullah during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they come to the conclusion that if you look at the a particular storage water in terms of a squarish one, so it is 1 arm's length, 1 1/4 arm's length, 1 1/4 arm's length on each side. So an arm's length, maybe we say it is about 45 centimeters. 45 centimeters. So a quarter will be, let's say it is 10 centimeters. So it's about 55 cm. So if you make a square 55 cm by 55 cm and depth also 55 cm, this is what we meant by squarish. So that is considered to be 2 qullah. So 55 by 55 by 55. And in the last lesson, I believe I spoke about the Hanafites opinion on water that is a lot. So they mentioned al-ashara bal-ashara, yani 10 arm's length by 10 arm's length, 10 arm's length by 10 arm's length. But when it comes into the depth, then it is an estimation where if a person were to scoop the water, the hand doesn't touches the base. So it is about a few centimeters. So in the last lesson, I gave the measurement of the quantity of water in the Hanafi and the Madhab when it comes to large amount of water. So there is this difference between the definition of large quantity of water in the Shafi'i Madhab and the definition of large quantity of water in the Hanafi Madhab. And if you do this comparison, you will find that the quantity of the Hanafites is larger than the Shafi'ites in this regard. So, but here we are reading a book in the Hanafi and Madhab. So we go by the definition of ashara by ashara. So when you go to mosques in India, for example, when I went to India, in South in India, most of them are Hanafis. You find that the pool of water that is present in those masjid is big. Usually in the Indian Muslim mosque, you find it is much bigger than the Malay mosques, for example, that you find in Malaysia, for example, because of some of these differences. But ala kulli hal, a large amount of water, it does not affect by the changes of the water, as what we mentioned. So now he is only specifically speaking about ma'ul qalil, water that is small in quantity. Idah shariba minhu hayawan, when animals drinks from it. So now we have the remnants, right? The su'r. So you have an animal that drinks from this water. So what is the su'r? The remnants of the water. Yakunu ala arba'ati aqsam. So he mentioned they are divided into 4 categories. Wa yusamma su'ran. It is known as su'r, as what we mentioned. So they are divided into these 4 categories. What are the 4 categories? Al-awwal, he said, the first, tahirun mutahirun ghayru makruh. Tahir mutahir, yani it is pure and it can purify. This ma al-mutlaq, that's what we mentioned. Ma al-mutlaq, water yani that purify, that is pure and can purify, and it is not makruh, Wa huwa ma shariba minhu adami. So this example, any adami here refers to human being. Yani for example, if I drink any from this water, now this is a su'r. This is considered to be the remnant. Can I give any to somebody else to drink any from the water? Of course. Because I am a human being. No issue. What you call it? The saliva is pure. The saliva is pure. Unless if a person, for example, na'udzubillah min zalik, drinks liquor, and then the remnants of the liquor is still in his mouth, and he drinks from the water. So we say now the water carries a different ruling, because it is affected by the filth that is found in the mouth of the drinker. So this is different. But we are speaking here if there are no such filth that is present, just in the saliva of a human being. So we say that it is considered to be pure. Tahirun mutahirun ghayru makruh. Pure and can purify and not makruh. So this is point number 1. And then he said, faras. So the faras is a horse. Aw ma yu'kalu lahmuhu. So this is a principle in the Hanafi fiqh. For those who are following in this lesson, it is important to understand this qa'idah. What is the qa'idah? The scholars of the Hanafi madhab, they are saying that if the animal is such that we can eat from its meat, there are animals in it that we can eat, for example, like goats, lambs, cows, horses. Horses is part any of those animals, even though it is makruh. It can be makruh if people use it for transportation and so on and so forth. But in terms whether it is halal or not, yes, it is halal. It is considered to be halal, and there are communities in the world today that depend on the meat of horses, especially in the Mongolian area or in Kazakhstan and maybe. So any animal that we can eat from the meat, the saliva is not najis. The saliva is not najis. So this is a principle. The saliva of the animal that can be eaten is not najis. So this is why the author mentioned this Idah. He said, "Aw ma yu'kalu lahmuhu." So any animal that we can eat from its meat, if it drinks from water, the remnants is tahir and mutahhir. The water is pure and can purify, meaning it can be used to take wudu for example. It can be used to do istinja, because the saliva of these animals are pure, because of the fact that their meat is halal. Their meat is halal for us. So this is the first type. Asani najis, the second category, that the remnants becomes a filth. When it is drank, the remnants becomes a filth. La yajuzu isti'maluhu. It is not permissible to use it, because now it becomes mutanajjis. Wa huwa ma shariba minhu al-kalb. A dog it drinks from the water, and as I mentioned earlier, if it is small in quantity of water, automatically the whole water becomes mutanajjis. So in this regard, there is no difference between the Hanafi and the Shafi'i in this regard, because dog is najis, and we have the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu an. So this point number 2, aw khinzir. Likewise, al khinzir, the swine, the saliva of the swine is najis. Aw shay'un min siba' al bahaim. Likewise, the what do you call it? The siba' al bahaim, meaning these are the wild animals. Wild animals, kal fahadi wa dhihb. Fahad is basically like a leopard. Dhihb is a wolf. So the saliva is najis. Likewise, tigers, lions, hyenas, all these are wild animals. Animals that live in the wild. These are the animals that we cannot eat them, because they have these fangs. So their saliva is najis. Their saliva is najis. Athalis, the third category, said makruhun isti'maluhu. Makruhun isti'maluhu. Makruh here is makruh tanzih. This is mentioned by the author of Maraq al-Fala, the same author, Sheikh Hassan Shawun Bulali, when he commented on the makruh here, because in the Hanafi madhab, usually when the scholars use the term makruh, what they meant is makruh tahrim. Makruh tahrim. Usually what they meant is makruh tahrim. And in the Hanafi madhab, when they mention makruh tahrim, this is haram based on ijtihad. The meaning of makruh tahrim in the madhab, Imam Abu Hanifa, it is haram based on ijtihad, meaning there are differences amongst the ulama. But there is a difference between makruh tahrim and haram. Haram is based on dalil qat'i. For example, zina is haram. We don't say zina is makruh tahrim. Zina is haram. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, wala taqrabu zina. There is a consensus on the prohibition of zina. So we say this is haram. But when it comes to smoking, for example, scholars of the Hanafites, some of them mention this makruh. But what is meant in makruh is makruh tahrim. Why? And they say makruh tahrim, because it is based on ijtihad. It is based on ijtihad. It is not based on an evidence that is qat'i, that is certain. So these are the difference between haram and makruh tahrim. But here, what is meant by the author here is makruh tanzih. Makruh tanzih. Something that is disliked, and it does not carry any sin. But when you say makruh tahrim, it carries sin. It carries any sin, but the sin is not the same as what is haram. So he mentioned makruhun isti'maluhu ma'a wujudi ghayrihi. It is makruh to you, and better for us not to use it if it's makruh. But unless if you don't have choice and you don't have anything except this water, just like a cat drinks from it, a cat drinks from a pail of water. If we have other choice, it's better to avoid. It's better to avoid. Why? And because as what we mentioned, the cat is an animal that we cannot eat from the meat. So by right, the saliva of the cat is najis, but there is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. There's an exception for pertaining for cats, and there is an exception because the Prophet ﷺ referred to the cat as tawafun, and an animal that moves around a lot. And it is difficult for us to prevent them from drinking from our bottles and pails. So the Prophet ﷺ gave us this concession. But it is better to avoid if you have any pure water that is not drunk by any of these animals. So these are some of the exceptions. So Ul-Hira, then he say what dajajatil mukhalla. Dajaja al-mukhalla refers to hens that are left outside. Al-mukhalla. You see, when you go to the village for example, you find people they have hens and chickens. So what they do is that they will just make them roam around. They will just make the chickens roam around. Like for example, wild chickens. So why it is makruh? Why it is makruh from their saliva? Because wild chickens eat from anything that is out there. We do not know what they are eating. They sometimes they eat anything that are najis and so on and so forth. But it is different in the case anywhere. You have people who keep chicken in their farms like nowadays, so you can control the intake of the chickens. If you feed the chickens, for example, good food, and that does not mix with any forms of filth, and then that carries a different ruling. But here the author mentioned dajajatil mukhalla, because there is a possibility that these chickens, and even though they are halal, but they eat from the things that is filth. وَسِبَاعِ الطَّيْرِ, likewise wild birds. وَسِبَاعِ الطَّيْرِ and wild birds. قَصَّقَر, like eagles. Shaheen, hada'a, like sparrow. And this, what do you call it? And the predators, and the predators of the birds, like hada'a. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned any birds, hada'a. There is a term to it. There is a term to it. If you look at the translation, he mentioned predatory land animals such as a cheetah, fox, or wolf have drunk from. Then he mentioned leftover of a cat, stray chicken, predatory birds such as an eagle, falcon, glade. This is the names of such predatory wild birds. And then he mentioned wasawakinil buyut, the animals that lives in the house. So, for example, like rats. This is forgiven. This is forgiven, even though we cannot eat any from the meat, but it's very difficult for us to prevent, especially when a person is living in a village. There are a lot of rats and so on and so forth. Likewise, this lizard and other these animals. The author mentioned also al-hayya and snakes. Also, what you call it? It does not make the water najis, but it's makruh. Lal akrab, except for the scorpion. The scorpion is different. The scorpion does not make the water to be makruh. Then we have the four. رابع مشكوك في طهوريته وهو سوق البغل والحمار فإن لم يجد غيره توضأ به وتيمم ثم صلى. And then the fourth we have the part where there is some doubt. We do not know for sure on the purity of the water. And this is al-baghl. Al-baghl is the animal in between the horse and the donkey. And when the horse and the donkey meet, you have this baghl. So we do not know. We do not know for sure that the water is pure or not pure. So our scholars mentioned you have to look at the mother. If the mother is pure, then it carries what you call it, the ruling of purity. Well, himar, we have the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the Prophet prevented us from eating the what you call it, this meat any of the donkey. فَإِن لَمْ يَجِدْ غَيْرَهُ تَوَضَّأَ بِهِ. So if he does not find any other than it, he does any tawaddu bihi wa tayammama summa salla. Yani he does any tawaddu, he does wudu and he does any tayammum, yani just to play safe. Summa salla, and he performs any the prayers, because any there are differences any with regard to whether the remnants any of the saliva any of the barrel and the donkey and is considered to be pure or not pure, because any these animals in principle any there are animals any that cannot any be consumed. Wallahu alam any bisawab. Inshallah, and we will stop any for here, and in our next lesson inshallah, and we will speak any about the next any chapter as mentioned by the author. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with tawfiq. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adhaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.